My guest this week is a third-generation Hong Kong entrepreneur with a business that's breaking new ground in its niche and making strides as an education learning outcomes and artificial intelligence big data play. I started off by asking Chris Schrader of the Graduate Ltd how his DNA in commerce came about, given his family's prodigious roots in the HKSAR.
My grandmother was from Indonesia, and after World War II she moved to the Netherlands and studied there. And my grandfather was a very entrepreneurial-minded person. So he was studying at a business school in the Netherlands, and he met and fell in love with my grandmother. This was on my mother's side, and she still wanted to be in Asia. I think she was really attracted to Asia, and an opportunity came up for them to move to Hong Kong.
What year was this then?
1963. Yeah. So and they moved here, and he set up an import-export business, which is what so many entrepreneurs were doing at the time. I think he was taking wood, timber of sorts from Indonesia, processing it, and then selling it to the Netherlands. So that was his beginning. But he moved. His business really moved in many directions. He ended up sitting on the Hong Kong General Chamber for many years. I think he's the only non-president honorary general committee member or something like that. But he's a small business owner, so he's never gone big by choice, I think. And I think I learned a lot of my business skills through his experience in Hong Kong. Yeah.
And how about your father?
My father is also a very entrepreneurial man, but he is a doctor, so he actually has a degree, he has a profession, and so he works at a private hospital in Hong Kong, and I mean he's constantly also experimenting actually with technology to make the experience for patients and doctors and nurses better, and he's a very wise man. So whenever I am about to make a rash decision, I almost know it. I always give him a ring and give him a call just to say, what should I be doing, or is this the right decision? And I always get the best answer from him.
Now it's kind of ironic, really, that you're running a business called The Graduate, but you and Mark Zuckerberg have got something in common in as much as you both dropped out from Harvard.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's all we have in common. I definitely don't have his bank account or the success in his company. But, Harvard makes it easy to take time out of Harvard. They actually, what I'm on is called a leave of absence, an indefinite leave of absence. And that basically gives me the right to leave and stay out for as long as I need. I just remember I spoke to my dean when I wanted to leave, and it was literally just one letter I had to sign, and that was it. They do make it very easy for you, particularly if they see, not even if it's just entrepreneurial things, like people can tend to do work, jobs, Teach for America, all the social work. They just want to see Harvard students kind of do that kind of missionary thing, right? Get out there and use some of the skills they're learning, get energized, and then often go back. In my case, I don't think I will be for any time soon, though.
The Graduate, to my view, represents connection economy, left field entrepreneurship at its best, in as much as you allow a tribe to organize themselves around your platform, and then you really take benefit from what you learn as a result of that tribe doing what they do on your platform. How did the whole idea of The Graduate come together, and did it start out being the business model that it is today, or did you have a different idea for it when you first started?
Well, Stephen, just let me say about communities, I think the attitude up till today has been communities are a byproduct of a good platform. And we're starting to realize, especially with, for example, Airbnb, that in fact building a community is just as important a part of your business as a product. It's not a byproduct. You can actually create a business out of building a community, and we know that Brian Chesky, the people at Airbnb, they were out there building their community personally, doing something, quote, very unscalable. And for us, we started off in 2011, some time ago. I worked as a tutor, and my roommate needed a job, essentially. I was studying at United World College. He was on scholarship. His funding got cut, so he was good to go to school, to eat, but to go and see Hong Kong, he had no money. So I took one of the jobs I had many jobs, and I gave it to him. And he was a young guy. His background, he shared a very common background with the family. He was teaching, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So they recommended it to all their friends. So young, ambitious and successful student helping their children out. There was definitely a mentorship element. It made, I mean, in retrospect, it made me think more closely about what makes a good teacher for every student. That there are factors at work. It's not just a degree or a grade or a university name. But back then, I was just happy to grow that business as almost like an agency, which I did. So I had more and more people coming to work with the Graduate. None of them were graduates; they were all high school students, and obviously that wasn't sustainable. So in 2012, my co-founder and I, we actually set across Canada in order to beat the world record on bike, across Canada basically. And we obviously had a lot of time to talk, and one of the many things we talked about was this business. And Zach is an incredible and inspirational technology advocate. He's a programmer, really a jack of all trades, but he does everything incredibly well. So really it was a great conversation to have. He made some suggestions immediately into how the business could become a technology company. What we've ended up with today is a platform. So we don't actually capture any value from either tutors or parents. They don't pay to use our platform. We just support the framework for them to meet, and the framework for the parents to know that the tutors are who they say they are. So they're verified. But that's not it. Like I mentioned earlier, we really want to find out what's going on, what makes a good teacher for a good student. And it's a low benchmark at the moment. Nobody's doing that. I mean, we're sort of arbitrarily putting students, often in a group, together with one teacher, and we're just saying, give us better grades, is more or less what we're saying. It's a very, very simplistic view on education. So what we want to do is, using technologies that are now available, for example, machine learning, any kind of regression work, big data analysis, these are all at our fingertips with a competent technical team. We're actually using an AI API, so an artificial API, to do a state analysis. So it's one thing to know who you are, and what your traits are. It's another thing to know entirely what your views are onto a particular subject. This is often more important in terms of learning. As a math student, I could be in general a very extroverted person, and a personality test, a traditional one, would show that. But I could be incredibly nervous about mathematics. So that nuance, understanding that, is something we try our best to do through passive data. So you have all these different traits and analyses and states that we can actually pick up on the student and on the teacher, but we don't do it invasively. So you're not going to sit there and fill 20, 30 pages of questions for us to generate a reliable profile. You simply log in with Facebook, Gmail, whatever other services you use. You don't even necessarily have to do that, and we already start building that profile for you. And if even adding a little bit of science, our hypothesis is that we could be improving results by 15 to 25% at least to begin with. So imagine that, 15 to 25% less time, less money, and generally probably a more pleasurable experience for the student and the teacher. So that's really what we're trying to get towards, is add some science into teaching.
It's a fascinating proposition, and I commend you for the tack that you've taken. Do you know any other entrepreneurs in Hong Kong that are kind of thinking about their businesses in the way that you are as regards data, platform, enabling tribes, this kind of thing? Yeah,
I think there are many. This is it's common knowledge. It's all out there. People, particularly in America, are always talking about the importance of starting with good analytics, good data, good KPIs. The business model is very strange for a lot of people, even here in the tech community, probably less so, but offering a product completely for free, and then building network effects, that's really still quite a new thing, even though it's been around for some time now.
And you are very much a very modern startup, but I know that you kind of eschew the sort of nascent startup culture that's emerging in Hong Kong. What's your view on where perhaps the startup movement is perhaps not getting it right at this time?
I think we could do with a few more success stories, and set the benchmark a bit higher. I think that would help everybody. Because presently, what is a good tech company in Hong Kong? Nobody knows. So if you use the word tech, sort of you get respect for it, regardless of what you're doing. There are some big companies here, and we have to respect that they've succeeded, but they're sort of low on the scene, low profile. It would be nice to see Hong Kong do more to get traditional big tech companies such as, Google, not so traditional, but Facebook, etc. Singapore does this. They provide huge tax breaks for these, and ease of visas actually to get these people into Singapore. And what happens is you have a cascade effect. They leave those companies and they set up smaller tech companies locally. if Hong Kong decided that it wanted to be more friendly towards big tech, I think there's no reason that it couldn't bloom here. But again, I'm a bit skeptical that's going to happen.
What do you see your prospects for the next 5 years, and what do you have to execute really well to achieve the objectives that you've got?
Massive growth. Growth is almost everything, especially in Hong Kong, Asia in general. We offer a free service, so we're spending investors' money every day, and they trust us to take our product seriously, take our growth strategy seriously. We have a density liquidity strategy, so Hong Kong is just our focus. I mean, that's a fancy way of saying we're just looking at Hong Kong at the moment until we really feel that the growth curve is curving off, it's flattening out, and even then we'd like to keep on going to increase that volume of transaction on our platform. So, we're really just going to be focused here. You probably get this from every tech startup. Where we're going to be in 5 years, I don't know.
Which person's concepts or movements have most influenced you since you have been in business for yourself with this deal?
That's a very good question. It's a world of a lot of free information, and the ideas of the Graduate are a combination of that. I think every day I make a point of reading 5 to 10 articles about everything. I read a book a week at least, and
Charlie Munger talks about lifelong learning, and that certainly resonates with me.
Yeah, I know it's underrated, and I think that especially if you have some applicable, something you can use in what you're learning. For example, you read that article, you suddenly go, oh, well, that would work nicely in this part of the business or whatever. You apply what you learn and you sort of internalize it better. And you don't know when it's going to be useful. So the more you read, the more you're likely you are to find something that you could take to your everyday business life.
You've got a co-founder who has got complementary skills to yours, and I know that you've brought other talent into the business. What core skill sets do you think you bring to the Graduate, and why do you think those skill sets applied in your business are going to get you the results that you're clearly going to get, in my view?
Yeah, because I'm a non-technical CEO, so I guess I'm very stubborn. There have been many points in the Graduate's history. Today we're doing well, we're very well financed, but there were many points where it would have been easy and justifiable to throw the towel in. I ran a business before this as well, which is also doing well. It's a charity, but nevertheless, I ran it like a business. So I have experience in that, and I think that my job, if I think about my job every day, it's always to make sure there's enough money in the bank, hire people, fire people, make sure you always have the right team, and communicate the vision, communicate what we're doing. That's it. Those are my 3 responsibilities, and all the time I'm meeting people, whether it's staff, internal, external, whatever, to do those 3 things, and I think I do those 3 things well. I don't know.
What advice would you give to first-time entrepreneurs in Hong Kong? I would be very. I think I'd be very optimistic. I think there's going to be a lot of money, a lot of opportunity here, but I'd also be very realistic, and I would be frank. I'd say that 90% of you aren't cut for this. Not because you don't have it in you. Like, everybody can be an entrepreneur, right? We see it. All sorts of people are thrown in there just because it's a confluence of the right idea, the right team, the right money, the right location, all these sort of factors. So don't give up. I think the stubbornness is super important. And you know what? Everybody starts off as a beginner. I consider myself a beginner. And the more you go through something, the more experienced you become. You're not just gonna land on the scene and become the next Mark Zuckerberg. You might have to go through 4 or 5 companies, 4 or 5 failures, which is tough. I've had a couple, and I think that's the last thing I'd expect, is that if you're running a company, or if you're a young aspiring entrepreneur and you don't feel like seriously challenged every day, like something that oh man, we really have to overcome this. If you don't feel that every day, you're probably doing something wrong. That's what I would say. Yeah. What keeps you awake at night?
So many things. Yeah, everything to do with, I mean, normally what keeps me awake are the near-term problems. Actually, the long-term problems I don't worry too much about. But, you know, the small-term things, making sure everyone in the company is happy, doing things, making, like, I worry a lot about are people doing the right things? Do we have the right strategy? Is that strategy being deployed in the right way? And it can't be, right? I mean, there's no way that we got the perfect strategy. But so I'm constantly worrying about that because, you know, it's these things that you cannot perfect. They're the ones that keep you awake.